Customer Commerce Podcast, where technology's fast and biz is a blast.
In life and in business, time is precious. It's why customers stay or leave and why businesses succeed or fail. We're here to give a voice to everything that makes business, whether as a customer or as a CEO, easier and more rewarding. Welcome to the Customer Commerce Podcast. Let's dive in. Welcome, ladies and gents, to episode 20. We are growing up.
We could almost have alcohol in America.
I know, we're young adults right now, almost.
Almost,
And
don't push it.
yeah, exactly. And I'm here, the three amigos. We are here from all sides of the earth and planet and stars and moon. I'm with David Breyer and Michael Linzar, branding extraordinaire, founder, CEO, moonstopper, moonstrucker, all those things.
Coffee drinker.
We are, what's that?
Coffee drinker.
Coffee drinker, absolutely. We are here to bring you some more good news, tips, all those kind of things for you, the listener. Whether you are a small business owner, you're interested in getting into business, or you're right in the thick of it, we discuss all things wisdom around e-commerce, tips. We have some guests on sometimes. And this episode, we're going to discuss some trending news that's happening. So the first one that I want to bring up is very, very recent. It's actually, I think, within the last month. And it's to do with a cookie business. And that business is Crumbl. So they're quite famous in America, but we don't actually have them in Australia. Basically, Crumbl are massive. They're getting all this attention on TikTok. Everyone's trying their cookies. Their cookies are giant, by the way. Have you guys had a Crumbl cookie?
No, I've seen one.
No, I'm yet to try them as well. So these people from Sydney, Australia, went to a certain part of the US, they spent $6,000 on buying Crumbl cookies, brought them back over to Australia, and put up a pop-up shop. So these guys are not affiliated with Crumbl whatsoever. So they put up a pop-up shop in Sydney, created a TikTok account, and said, we're doing, Crumbl is now in Sydney and we're selling cookies. They had lines and lines for these cookies. And allegedly, the people that were lining up, they only realized that it was a scam, or the cookies weren't actually, they were Crumbl cookies, but they were very stale, apparently. And the front of it was like connected to the store that they had it in was it was a bit shady. It was joined to another department store, and they just had all the boxes kind of stacked up. And then they realized that they had been scammed. And I've looked through all the articles, no one's been able to identify the organizers. And I just want to talk about it because I want to see what's right, what's wrong. Some of them were saying maybe it is Crumbl, because Crumbl then were like, oh, maybe we should bring it to Australia since it's got so much attention. And I want to know what your opinion is on that kind of situation. Michael, you want to go first?
Yeah, first off, great entrepreneurial spirit. I mean, someone to have I've read the articles and the scam aspects, they're saying, well, there was a misrepresentation, hey, Sydney, we're now here. Crumbl's now in Sydney. We are here. And there's an implication of affiliation there, right? Which that's not cool. That's misrepresentation of a brand. They could get sued for all sorts of things, using trademarks without permission, all sorts of things like that. So that aside, that's not cool, and they shouldn't do that. The flip side, what incredible market validation for the Crumbl cookie. I mean, Jesus, if you were the Crumbl CEO, if I was the Crumbl CEO, I'd be like, how do we get a proper Crumbl store up in Sydney Tuesday? Let's go. I would get a shipping container full of ingredients, get one of my chefs, put them in the container, put it on an airplane, send it over, start, right? That would just be, they could go open at a fairground in Sydney. They could open in the middle of Hyde Park in Sydney. I mean, Like they could just go and take a taco truck and convert it to a Crumbl truck. I mean, whatever, right? That could be done very, very rapidly and take hold of that marketing hype. And I'd be very surprised if they don't. They've expanded rapidly over in the USA. I think, it's actually quite interesting. And I'm not quite sure. I think good on them for trying, whoever did it. I mean, it takes... People are complaining they were $17 a cookie when it only cost them $8 a cookie, and it's like double the price. Well, yeah, okay, but the person that went and got you the cookies took a 22-hour international flight one way, went to a store, put down $6,000 of their own cash to buy cookies, not knowing whether or not they'd actually get a return on them, figured out how to package them and get them back on the aeroplane and back to Sydney, which is another 22-hour flight, got them through customs somehow, and found a store, rented it, paid staff, did a whole TikTok campaign, got the whole thing up and running. I mean, they would have made a massive loss. There is no way they made money at $17 a cookie on a one-off shot like that. Like, I just can't imagine that they scammed people out of money. I think they identified a need, saw that there was an economic shortage of that need in a certain area, provided that product, and failed. That's what they did. The cookies were stale. Good. Well, next time, figure out how to not make them stale.
Yeah,
but
it's a good audition process if they wanted to.
Yeah, they should contact Crumble and say, "Hey, we'll take over your business down here. Let's go."
Right, David. What are your thoughts?
Well, my thoughts. I think they should immediately create a Crumble man who should actually show up in the Cape as a superhero who's coming to save unsuspecting customers who have the correct appetite and the correct taste inclinations, and actually he should show up as a hero with like a big Crumble man logo across his chest, like Superman. They should turn it into just like what what Stanley did. What Stanley did with that woman with the freaking, the little
with the cup, and what Bunnings did with the bluey thing. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, what's it going to cost them? Let's look at the investment. I mean, So let's say they get an actor, they get the costume, he flies down, he does it. So let's say it's going to cost them $50,000 to do it. That's going to be the best $50,000 they've ever spent in their life to actually get that much
rescue
PR.
Mission.
The Crumbl rescue mission. It's like, I mean, give me a break.
PO of Crumbl. There's no charge for that. Just send me a cookie. It's all good.
Yeah, were you a victim? Yeah. That's
it
true.
Should be like rumble in the Crumble. I mean, come on,
rumble in the Crumble. Yeah, that's right. Crumble down under.
That's true, though. They've gotten all this free marketing without doing anything. And
not only that, the photos of people lining up for these cookies. I mean, they're good cookies, I'm sure, but are they that good? Like,
it's a cookie, yeah.
It just shows how much a branded good product can penetrate internationally. I would guarantee a lot of those people lining up have had a Crumbl cookie in America. I mean, Crumbl's exploded, 700 locations or something in a few years. It's just gone absolutely ballistic. So I think
there's so much he could be doing. This guy should show up. He should go on the airplane in complete uniform costume and show up, and he should be bestowing fresh Crumbl cookies to the flight attendants, documenting it, say, I'm coming down to rescue. I mean, he could turn it into a freaking whole event. It would be amazing. And it would the amount of PR and play that they could get is endless.
They could do a co-sponsorship with the Australian State Emergency Services and have like a police cavalcade and an SES helicopter pick up the Crumbl cookies from the airport and fly it to the park, so it's there on time, and do a big donation to SES and make sure that the they've got, all the emergency workers have Crumble cookies to help in the
Oh, I
next
like
disaster
that.
relief.
Yeah.
The Crumble
And
disaster relief. I mean, even the name fits in with disaster relief, right?
yeah. And he should show up with a defibrillator so he actually see if he can revive, bring life back to the stale cookies.
Actually, if you are listening, Mr. or Mrs. Crumble, Store Connect's one of Store Connect's customers is a defibrillator company. They're Australian made. We could do a cross sponsorship here with Salade and Crumble. So anyway,
there you go. Well, hopefully I'll keep in tune of what happens, because surely that's not just going to die out. Surely someone,
it would
whether
be
it's
such
Crumble,
a lost opportunity if it did.
I agree. Okay, and the next one in the news is a company called Pipcorn, which I think is the cutest word in the whole entire world. And they are a company that produces mini popcorn snacks made from heirloom corn varieties. And looking at it, they appeared on Shark Tank. This is when their kind of company expanded. They have lots of different snacks. They have like basically healthy chips, fries. And they're like gluten-free. They're a healthier alternative to your normal, I guess, popcorn and snacks like that. And I wanted to talk about this one because as I was looking at them, they're exploding right now from when they did their Shark Tank appearance. They appeared on Oprah's Favorite Things 3 times. So I assume they've gotten quite big over time. But I was looking on their socials and they're still going to markets. And what I noticed is that the owners, I assume it's the owners or the staff, are still dressing up as pumpkins or a corn or broccoli. And while their audience isn't kids per se, they just have this really bubbly energy. And I thought that was really cool that even though they're probably doing really well online, they're still going to the farmers markets. And not only that, they stand out like crazy in that beautiful, joyous kind of beingness.
I think there's 2 things here. That the first one is that thing which created the initial affluence will create the affluence again, right? So them going to the farmers markets is probably how they got their original communication out. And this is a really important aspect for anyone listening in sales or any sort of B2C or even B2B sales. If you have an action that has been proven to create an uptrend in what you're doing, keep doing it. Like don't as soon as the flow starts coming up and your sales are increasing, don't then just abandon that and now focus over here. Have the systems in place so you can take that new content in or those new sales in, but keep doing this original thing. And even if they keep growing forever, what that would mean in my head is that means I can fund more teams of corn and broccoli and pumpkins to go to farmers markets. I could have 7 roving farmers markets people that just sit in each team sits in a state and they just go from farmers market to farmers market once every 2 or 3 months, and they're just doing this circulation with the Pipcorn and just keep rolling on that line. At some point you might want to tweak it and improve it and that sort of thing, but that's really, really critical. I think the other thing about Pipcorn is interesting. It's heirloom corn, right? I'm wondering if you can actually taste the difference. Like, how much of this is a valid? I mean, heirloom corn, for anyone who doesn't know, is where like a lot of corn these days are all genetically modified or special strains and things like this. Heirloom corn basically means, like heirloom anything in terms of seeds and stuff, means that the farmer has kept selecting these seeds over time. They're not genetically modified. They're just being selected for taste. And then over decades, they become a certain strain or a certain flavor. So, but the question becomes, is it actually better? Like, I don't know, because popcorn is usually quite heavy with salt or sugar or all these other flavors. The corn is really just, if you've ever had popcorn, it doesn't really taste like anything. It's by itself. It's very flat in flavor. So it's just interesting. Again, another company taking a perceived problem, which is no one wants to eat genetically modified food, and turning it into, like, it's actually funny. People don't want to eat junk food, and they don't want to eat genetically modified food. So we'll make non-genetically modified junk food, which makes people feel better about eating junk food because they're getting a benefit by not eating genetically modified. So I'm going to eat junk food anyway. I may as well pick the healthy junk food option. I mean, good God. That's
It's the world we live in right now. Honestly, it's kind of
it's
how
the
my
world we
mind
live in
works
right
as
now.
well.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, okay, if I'm going to go eat chips, I'm going to get the one that's best for me. But I still need it to.
I'll choose
I
the
still need it to
sweet
taste
potato
like.
fries, not the regular fries. Or, don't go to McDonald's right now because you can catch salmonella from the onions. I mean, there's all sorts of things blowing up at the moment. McDonald's have had to do a whole marketing campaign just on that recently. I don't know if anyone saw it, but there was about 8 locations where people had died by buying a quarter pounder. Like, it was full on. So allegedly in the news. So it was pretty full on. But this heirloom thing, I think, is fantastic. I love that they're still going to the farmers markets. They're still going to their roots.
Yeah, but I wonder if are they doing that? I got that. Thank you for that.
Thanks.
To acknowledge that. But I wonder if they're doing
They're
it.
still harvesting popularity.
Yeah.
Let me your
how many
ear.
more we can get out of you, Michael. But David, I have a question. Like, do you think brands like that, no matter how big they get, would they have that as a strategy to stay connected to their communities? Like, do you think there's a strategy behind it, or do you think it's just because that's what they're good at, and like Michael said, that's the affluence that created that, so they're just going to keep doing it? Or is there a back end other?
I mean, from a branding standpoint, I mean, obviously it's a differentiator, right? There's that. The interesting, when you go to the website, it says one of the things they talk about, which I think is kind of cute, is they say make every day Friday, but they spell it FRY, right?
Yeah.
So Fridays, that's kind of cool. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, they should certainly have calendars that every day is Friday. I mean, it's like, then you got to refigure out how you understand the calendar entirely. But what I find interesting is I always find it interesting to take a category and make it fresh and make it new and find some sort of new subdivision. And probably the most interesting one, because we're talking about turning something that's kind of junk food into a health food and and all this kind of stuff. I remember when air fryers came out, and I thought it was the most fascinating thing. And it was years before air fryers came out, before I got one. And I got one, and someone made a recommendation. I was like, my daughter she was making sandwiches. She was, oh, the air fryer is amazing, Dad. You don't smell up the whole kitchen. It's kind of encloses it. And I got it, and I realized, oh, this is actually just a little mini convection oven that goes on your kitchen countertop. But the idea of like the air fryer, it's like we all love fried stuff, no matter how bad it is for us. We love fried stuff. So the idea of an air fryer, I thought was like, what brilliant in terms of creating a new category that sounds so desirably yummy when it's actually a convection oven. And convection oven would not have had sex appeal. So I think the heirloom angle is cool. That hits that demographic that wants to get healthy stuff, and it's a play, it's a spin, it's fine. I mean, I've kind of read through their way that they've kind of done it. I don't think they've explained it in a way that's the easiest to assimilate for me to go, oh, okay, I get it. They talk about pollination, they talk about this and talk about that, and they talk about all these various things, and I'm like, either talk to me about flavor, because when you're dealing with food, what's going to drive it? For number one, flavor. If you're going to if you want to alienate a lot, just talk about only the health benefits and only the this and only that. If you talk about that, and the flavor is going to blow your mind, you're going to discover new taste buds that you didn't even know existed, and you get all of that stuff. Now you can hit it on a whole level that's totally different.
And it's healthy.
And it's healthy, right? Yeah, as opposed to it's healthy and it's not too bad tasting is one's play. But if it's like, this is yummy, this is satisfying, the texture is going to blow your mind, the right amount of crunch and the right amount of this, and by the way, it's healthy. Now we got to play. Now we got to spin.
I think you might not be their demographic though. I don't know if you're the customer.
I'm actually talking from I've actually worked with companies that have like been hardcore, like health, health. If they keep it that way, they actually alienate about 80% of the market. When they actually lead with flavor and it's as healthy as this other thing, it's just a matter of how they framed it. And if you do that, all of a sudden you now have literally opened the doors to about 60% more market share. And so I know this from actual inside experience of knowing that market very intimately, that it's very interesting. How you structure it and the sequence with which you unveil it makes an enormous difference in terms of perception.
That's interesting because who was I talking to on this? I met someone who was in the health food industry, and they were making health food bars, and their marketing did have a taste function, but they had a situation where they produced a really, really yummy bar, and then they made one that tasted a little bit worse, right? And the worst one sold more. And the reasoning that the only reasoning they came up with, they had two versions of the same bar, and they were doing taste tests. You know, which one tastes more like which one hits your target of you feel like you could eat this daily without feeling bad, right? That was the communication. And they do blind taste tests. And invariably people go, I prefer this one. And the one they wanted was the one that objectively tasted worse. So if you did the same test of which is the better snack bar, everyone chose the better tasting one. And when you asked which one's the better health bar, everyone chose the objectively worse tasting one. And there was some sort of psychology going on that even though, you know, basically they're the same in terms of nutritional value and all that sort of stuff, they sort of wanted to whip themselves a bit, like self-flagellation. So I have to kill myself a little bit to have the bad tasting bar. I'm wondering if that's a flawed sample test, though. You know, if you kept getting a good bar just anyway. Anyway, it's just there are so many bits to marketing, I guess, and human psychology and behavior. But I think David's point on lead with the taste and it's also healthy makes, you know, that's very valid. I love what they've done though. Pipcorn, hey? Pipcorn. Pipcorn, heirloom corn. Go buy yourself some popcorn. When I was in Chicago, I had some incredible oh my God, I had no idea that Chicago was popcorn. And Chicago as a city has nailed popcorn, I gotta say. You go buy all these different flavors and tastes, and I was trying popcorn that I had never heard of before, and I actually bought like 2 kilos of pre-popped popcorn back home to Australia for my wife to sample because it was that good. It was amazing.
You can buy pre-popped popcorn from different flavors, not when it's...
Yeah, like you go into the shop and they've got whole bags of like cellophane sealed bags. Cheese and bacon, honey. Yeah. Like it's all popped and it's in a bag. And yeah, so it's sealed.
So they're all like still corn, but then they pop into this cheese and bacon. No, you bought them where they're already popped.
Yeah, it's already cooked, pre-popped. That's what I meant. As in, they have already popped them for me. Not
I thought you meant pre-popped
without it being popped.
Understood. Well, I have a little hack. If you make normal popcorn and you put a little bit of maple syrup on, like with salt, and then you put maple syrup over it, just a little bit. Oh my God. Like, it's great.
You heard it here first. That is the customer commerce popcorn flavor.
Well,
exactly.
Here's just one other little interesting thing. All the little bits we're talking about, little anecdotes, are very interesting from this standpoint. There was a place that made these amazing cookies filled with seeds and nuts and a whole bunches of goodness, and they were a coffee shop, you'd go. Well, the interesting thing that happened is they would make them in the morning. They wouldn't sell very many of them. They sell tons of coffee, but they wouldn't sell very many of these. So what did they do? They simply said, they changed one word in the signage. It now said fresh homemade breakfast cookies, because people didn't think of having cookies for breakfast. It wasn't how, but now all of a sudden, breakfast cookies, just by adding the one word breakfast in front of the word cookie, now all of a sudden they were selling like hotcakes. No pun intended. Wow. But it's a perception point.
Yeah, because like Michael just said, you punish yourself. You go, I can't have cookie in the morning, but then you have breakfast cookies. You go,
A
oh, so
breakfast cookie.
they must be
Yeah,
healthy enough to have for breakfast. I
that's right.
mean, it's manipulation
Really, all a
everywhere,
breakfast
isn't it?
cookie is just a cake, right? It's like the difference.
Wild.
It's that thing on what is a muffin? Like a muffin is just a small cake, right? So, but why is it okay socially to get a coffee and a muffin? But I guarantee you, if you had in a cafe, if you walked into a cafe and it was get your coffee and a free tiny cake, no one would buy the cake. It would be the same product, but with a different name and a different positioning and a different branding. No one would purchase that cake because it's just a small cake. I'm not going to have a cake with my breakfast. I mean, that's totally unhealthy. My mum would kill me. But a banana muffin? Oh, well, that's all right. It's a muffin. It's just a muffin.
However, if you come to Italy, they will punish you if you have anything other than a coffee and a brioche, or a coffee and a croissant, or
Of
like
course.
it's wild.
Different countries.
It's completely different. It's like 7 a.m. and everyone's just like their little espresso and their freaking some kind of dessert.
But this is taking me back. This is taking me back to when Michael and I had dinner in San Francisco, where I will, and I am not exaggerating, I would say probably the finest and most freshly made cannolis I have ever had, period. They were amazing.
Have we
They
spoken
were
about
amazing.
tiramisu in San Francisco on the Customer Commerce podcast yet?
This is a fine line you're walking on while I'm in Italy. But go
Okay,
on.
so David and I were in San Francisco for Dreamforce, and we were walking home from sending off the team and whatever, and we were just like, yeah, we feel like some food. We weren't insanely hungry, I have to say. So we walked past, I don't know, 20 restaurants. And then I just thought, oh, we'll just turn left. And I saw a little side street, and I thought, let's just go down this side street. And we walked down this side street, middle of nowhere in San Francisco. And we walked past the first restaurant, the second restaurant. The third one was like a hole in the wall. You couldn't see it from anywhere. You have to know exactly where it was to get to it. And we looked at the top, and it was tiramisu written in Greek letters. And we went, yeah, I mean, why not? If they're calling themselves tiramisu, they're probably a good restaurant. And we walk in, and it turns out the owner comes up to serve us, and he sits us and gets really interested in us and is communicating with us, and we're just having a ball. And we couldn't decide on the menu, and he goes, no worries, I just feed you. And he walks off, right? So he brings out the food, and we're just eating this insanely good food.
Very good.
And then at one point we say to him, your restaurant name is tiramisu. I guess your tiramisu is pretty good. And he goes, no, my tiramisu is no good. It's legendary.
What is he Italian?
He was,
of course he was.
I
was very
yeah,
Italian. This is Pito.
But
This is Pito.
He was so hilarious. He just knew his market. And oh my God, his tiramisu was legendary. It was insane. And so was the cannelloni. And was the steak. And so was the pasta. It was just
everything.
That makes sense.
I'm going there again.
Yeah, that makes sense. If you have an Italian that's serving you, then enough said. They can be anywhere in the world and you know what to get. But if you have like an Australian, or maybe I'm being too discriminate.
Careful,
but
Jess.
You know what I mean?
Careful.
Yeah, I know. But yeah, if you're competing with Italy, now I know when I come back to Australia, I have to really keep an eye out. Like if they're Italians need to serve me Italian food from now on. I can't do anything else. Okay. Should we move on to the last one?
Crocs. Yeah.
Because we're running out of time. And I think, do we want to go with a yikes or a yay?
I think we go with a yay. Let's end off on a high.
Yay. Okay. The yay one is Crocs. The Crocs come back. I don't know if you guys ever remembered Crocs way back. Yep. And if you're a Croc fan now, what's your...
Do you know what a Croc is, everyone? I mean, basically, they're a holy shoe of rubbery plastic goodness.
Exactly, and they're just as since I don't know when people are going to be listening to this, but obviously with today being what it is, it's right now. It's in, or we'll say in this region of time, Halloween is among us, and I saw that someone had made Batman. Like the Batmobile Crocs. I actually
course.
saw this earlier today. Crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, there's so many different types of Crocs everywhere. They're like the crazier, the better is how I'm seeing it again on TikTok. TikTok is becoming for Gen Zs, like businesses are getting free marketing because of how Gen Zs use TikTok. It's wild. So Crocs came about in the mid 2000s. I remember when I had my little Discman and a little pair of Crocs, and they weren't as fashionable as they are now, but they were definitely like, you know, you got your bright colors and they were very comfortable. So we had them when we were going camping. So they had that, and then they were kind of unfashionably fashionable. And then it became a bit like, they're really dorky, and therefore, you know, your grandpa, because if he has, I don't know, foot problems or whatever. And then they just came back in 2021, and reportedly, since their resurgence, they've done a 64% increase in sales year over year.
Wow.
So the thing that I wanted to talk about was, again, the branding around it, because they've had celebrity influencers like Justin Bieber, Post Malone. They've created croc drops. I can't even say it.
Croc drop.
Yeah, but even that wording is very clever. And the other thing that they've done, again, with Gen Z leading the way, is they create characters or take cartoon characters or famous TV shows or whatever. I'm sure they have like a Bluey one, but they've made like a Lightning McQueen character, which is from the Pixar movie Cars, which is huge at the moment.
Announcing Bluey Crocs.
They did?
Yep. Announcing
Cool.
Bluey Crocs. They're now available.
And they sell out. So I want to talk about the comeback, because how do you go from such an ugly shoe that could be actually recyclable, I think it's in questioning at the moment, or potentially they're thinking about it, to a shoe that everyone wants to wear, and it has holes in it. So it's not like you can wear it in winter, but yet people are donning the socks and the Crocs. Like,
You know, this is the same thing Lego did. But many people don't know that 20-something years ago, Lego was on the verge of bankruptcy with $700 million in debt, and they were about to just go out of business. And what they did to turn it around was all of these co-marketing things. Like, you can't really, it's very hard to just buy Lego now. You have to buy a Batman set or a Marvel set or whatever. And that's how they rebooted it. And they started doing these co-marketing campaigns with other brands to create sets that did the cross-marketing and the cross-pollination across multiple brands. So Crocs is following a very, 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 very proven, well-worn path. Actually, I should say it this way. Crocs are walking a very, very proven and well-worn path. And that's right.
it's my
Moonwalking in your Crocs. I mean, they should do a Michael Jackson Croc, the best Croc to do a moonwalk in.
They probably have a list of what they could
totally.
do. You could do anything, yeah.
This is
great. I think
Crumble
Man should definitely be wearing Crocs on his way down.
Yes.
Crumble Crocs. I would not be surprised. Because you can get like stickers. So you can get like collectible pins or something that you stick on your Crocs.
Yeah. Same with the Bluey ones, yeah.
I
Alongside the classic
Crumble
Crocs
Crocs.
Bluey, families can grab an exclusive...
Wait, say that again. Sorry, hold on. Say that again, Michael.
I'm reading from the website. Alongside the classic clog, which is the Bluey Croc, Bluey fans and families can grab an exclusive Bluey Croc Gibbets charms, including Bluey, Bingo, Chatterman, and 5-pack featuring some of Bluey's school friends. So yeah, it's all about finding a differentiator, and a market. And really, the nice thing about this is it's building a connection. The brand is meeting the customer where the customer is, not expecting out of whatever hubris for the customer to come to where the brand is. You can do that to a degree in luxury goods, although arguably the luxury brand is meeting the customer where the customer is at the luxury brand. But having that recognition of, I want to wear a Croc, but I don't want to look stupid doing it. But I'm happy to wear a Croc and look insane while doing it, because then at least it's a communication and it's a starting point of conversation and it's a representation of my beingness and who I am. And I'm a bit quirky and I'm a bit of a rebel and blah, blah, blah. That's fine. But wearing a white Croc, not so much. So this is where Crocs found that their shoe is obviously very comfortable. How do they actually go about getting it into a proper... David is showing us his shoes.
David.
Yeah. We're going to get David a bluey shoe to wear on this Saturday.
Oh my God, I would love that. But isn't that interesting? Everyone wants to be unique.
Yes, absolutely. Well, not everyone. They want to be unique within what they're.
I like
what
the blend
they
in.
want.
I like the blend in.
Yeah,
Exactly. So you
They
give
want-
them the choice, you know.
yeah, that's
Go on,
right.
David.
I was just saying, I like the blend in.
Yeah,
You
he
do.
likes to blend in.
Yeah, you're quite shy too.
Yes,
We're all a
very
bit
shy,
aren't we?
very quiet.
That's why I'm wearing why I'm wearing. Well, people ask me I'm on the color of my. For those that are just listening to this, I just shared that I'm wearing my orange sneakers with lime green laces, and so
Fluoro green.
I'm walking around. I'm walking around today, and people are saying, "Wow, those are really bright." I said, "Well, my feet woke up this morning, and I said to them, what would you like to be for Halloween?" And they said, "The sunshine." And I said, "Okay, I'll make that happen."
Oh my gosh!
Oh my gosh.
And I think on that note,
I think
thank
we
you very
have
much
to
for
go.
listening,
I
everyone.
think we have to let David share his sunshine shoes with many other people that he can find today.
That's right.
I love
people,
it.
people have to put on sunscreen just when they're standing near me. What can I say?
Amazing. Okay. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for listening. We're going to come at you next week with more hot topics, and we've got so many. So we will see you next week. David, Michael, be the sunshine that you must be. See you guys.
See you, everyone. Bye.
Thanks for joining us today. We hope you had an awesome time leaving you with ideas on how to improve your business and wow customers. If you'd like to leave a real customer's story, head to the link in our show notes and cuss away. Love the show? Please subscribe and leave a review because that enables us to help more businesses in building real relationships with customers and grow more rapidly. See you next time.